Mosab Hassan Jousef er sønn av Sheikh Hassan Yousef, en av lederne av Hamas. Mosab samarbeidet med Israel som agent fra 1997 til 2007. Mosabs informasjon avverget flere dusin selvmordsaksjoner, avslørte flere Hamas-celler og avverget flere attentat og angrep mot israelerne. I 2010 utga han bestselgeren «Sønn av Hamas», eller «Sønn av Hamas», fra sitt eksil i USA, hvor han har fått innvilget asyl. Det er en ære og en glede å ønske Mosab Hassan Jousef hjertelig velkommen.
Anyone who is anti-Israel, what they don't understand, that they are anti-life. And they are anti-existence. Because how can you not appreciate and bow to the journey of Israel? All of us are Israel. Existence is Israel. Humanity is Israel. When we think about the journey outside of Babylon, of Egypt, of the Arab Peninsula, struggle against all the enemies and all the forces of darkness, trying to kill people who choose to be the people of God. They're not the chosen ones because they are the chosen ones. They are the chosen ones because it's a choice they have made. I don't know and I don't care what imagination in their head about God, but they choose God. An example of forgiveness and a nation that is pro-life. When we look at the Holocaust and what this nation had to overcome. Instead of seeking death, revenge, hatred, it's obvious for any observer to see that the Israeli nation, and again, this is not only a government or a country or a political regime, it's not a territory. It's beyond the fence of the Middle East. It's beyond the globe. It's universal. It's cosmic. And choose life. Where are the Jewish terrorist attacks as a response to the Holocaust and many other persecutions and oppressions from dark people who live in ignorance? And we think that the Nazis are gone. But we don't understand that they're still among us. Those who deny the Holocaust are Nazis. Simply. I take responsibility for this. Any government who wants to persecute me for this, welcome. Whether if they sit in a government, in a church, in a mosque, wherever they are, they have one thing in common, that they are Nazis. And they are among us. They live in delusion. I don't know what sick imagination that they have in head regarding to Israel and to the Jewish people. When we look at the Jewish people and you see all the ethics, values, science, medicine, arts, and how much this small nation contributed to humanity, apparently some of us maybe feel uncomfortable about this truth. Maybe there is a sense of jealousy within. little bit of hatred that we like to project. And instead of saying thank you, we cut the hand that helps us. Because what makes Norwegians get so involved in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? Oh, I'm pro-Palestinian. Well, guess what? The moment you become a pro-Palestinian, immediately you are anti-Israel. But you can be pro-Israel, and then you will be 100% pro-Palestinian as well. There is no difference between where I came from, where I was born, Ramallah. Small place, disconnected from the world at that time. There was no internet, no satellite. And all the knowledge that came from the external, from the outside, came from the mosque, from parents, from the school, from the streets, and created the illusion that Israel is our enemy. And as children, we didn't have the power to discern truth from falsehood. We believed. And all we see Israeli soldiers with guns. At that time, we did not see in them as protectors of the only democratic model in the entire region. But it agreed with the image that our society wanted us to see of Israel as vampires. Some people here in Europe still believe that Jews eat human beings. This is their propaganda to go against Israel and boycott Israel. Spread more lies. Excuse me, I had a cold a few days ago. It was not a fun one. Conditionings. Palestinian leaderships, Hamas and Mahmoud Abbas, the right and the left, moderates and extremists, they all have one thing in common: their hatred towards Israel. Actually, what's so-called moderate Palestinian, in my opinion, is more dangerous than the extreme one. Because the extreme terrorist, we know their intention, we know what they're all about, and we know how to deal with them somehow. At least there is a plan. But the hypocrite who hate with the name of peace and with the name of love is much more dangerous, much more sophisticated lie, in my opinion. They know that there is no room for a Palestinian state, but they are pushing a Palestinian state anyway. Yasser Arafatism did not die when Yasser Arafat died. It's a phenomenon. Palestinian leaderships, they know. The more Palestinian children die, the more Europeans, full Europeans, will sympathize and give us money. More Arabians will give us money. And the more chaos we create in the region, the more sympathy and the more support we get from the free world. This is their game. And the fools in Norway, and the fools we sympathize. We see children dying. Well, I also feel emotional when I see children of Gaza suffering. But the question is, who is responsible? Instead of standing for the truth, But because truth is multidimensional, and we are not able to discern truth from falsehood, we are not able to make sense of what we see. We just get a bit emotional, emotionally tickled, and we project our hatred on somebody. Let's blame someone, anyone. I cannot see these children dying anymore. So we start blaming. Oh, the state of Israel. Oh, but the state of Israel said 1,000 times for the population, evacuate, get out of this area. We are bombing this house. It has militia in it, get out. And the Hamas people wanted the children to stay in the area. They wanted civilians to stay in the area as human shields because they want civilians and innocent people to die. If civilians, children, women, elderly people don't die anymore, this means there is no money. I guess this is clear right now, right? The Palestinian problem, and you know, I love my people. I was just walking down the street and I saw a woman on the side of the street asking for help. And you know, I see motherhood wherever I go. You know, we are not separated. They're part of us. They're part of the human family. You know, wherever I go, I see my mother, and I see my grandmother, and I see my neighbors. I understand their struggle. But this is the time to take some responsibility. Enough blaming Israel. It's a very dirty game. This is the attitude of escapists who always like to blame. Show me one example of a Palestinian leadership that came in one conference and they said, we are so sorry, we were wrong at one single freaking policy throughout their entire struggle. Not even once. They took responsibility. They're perfect. They cannot make mistakes. Because all the mistakes simply are blamed on Israel. While the Israeli prime minister and the Israeli government, which is, you know, a bunch of other politicians, you know, and I'm not a big fan of politicians anyway, but they are accountable to the stupid media, at least. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend the media of the free world. Back in 2004, a building collapsed in Ramallah, my hometown. And because of corruption and because of the limitation of the Palestinian Authority, they were not prepared to have a rescue team. People were under the rubble, screaming, dying, practically, and people could not get them out. So they needed the help of the Israeli authorities now. But it was during the second Palestinian Intifada. There were airplanes, there were assassinations, there were suicide bombing attacks. Every checkpoint had so many school children pushed by the wise Palestinian leaders of all Palestinian factions, including Mahmoud Abbas' faction, Fatah, to go down to the checkpoints and throw stones on the Israeli soldiers where they can die, where we can create more chaos and get more global attention. So now I'm part of the Israeli intelligence and we need to see what's going on, you know, the safety of the troops. Those are people now, they're coming to rescue. They are on a humanitarian mission. So I was in the area and the Israeli Defense Force came to protect the rescue team. And they were able to save dozens of Palestinian workers from beneath the rubble. They worked an entire day, and the Palestinian people watching. The children of the refugee camps, women, everybody is watching the rescue. And I thought to myself, how do they feel about this right now? For me, you know, I was fascinated, you know, to see how democracy function in situations like this. War is something, conflict is something, humanity is something else. Now there is a crisis. People are dying, and we are here, not because we are Israelis, because we are human beings trying to help other human beings, regardless of what happened last night, regardless of what's going to happen tomorrow, or possibly on our way out of the city of Ramallah. And this is what I think the rescue team did not expect. What would happen on the way out of Ramallah after a 1 day of saving dozens of Palestinian lives? On the way out, hundreds of Palestinians said thank you to the Israeli Defense Forces and rescue team in a very special way by throwing stones, Molotov cocktails, and shooting on the Israeli vehicles for about 5 miles from the city center all the way to the checkpoint. This is ugly, and this is not only one incident. I say this is ugly because the Palestinian people in general, the collective consciousness, and I challenge their best philosopher to come out and debate me. I don't like political debate, but if they have somebody who has the power and the guts to challenge my logic, to challenge my truth, let them step out. But they don't. They like to stay in gray areas, in shallow waters. This is where they prefer to be. They like the type of media like CNN because they are too emotional and they know how to manipulate them. The honest truth that Palestinians and Arabians in general, including the immigrants that you're having here, hundreds of thousands of them, who are not going to fit in your society. I'm not trying to create a phobia, but you're about to face some serious problems here, my friends. Before you talk about the Palestinian-Israeli problem, well, Israel knows how to deal with its own problem. You need to redirect your lens from the outside to the inside, because you've got some serious issues here on the ground. And you did a very nice job of convincing people who live on the other side of the world that you have created the perfect system and paradise. And they believed. And all of them immigrated from that world to this world. Now the problem, that they are going to be in a shock, that this is not the paradise that meets with their imagination. And there's going to be a void. And there is going to be a gap of both people. And only God will be able to bridge that. I hope that in the meantime, there won't be lots of violence. There are people, part of the human family, who live in a deep state of delusion. This is a fundamental problem. As lust, hatred, anger, greed, delusion, they're all fundamental problems, human conditions that don't differentiate between north and south. And man won't become a man until overcoming the animal within. There are people who share the same form, but they are in deep delusion, and we have responsibility towards them. We are not superior to them. That's the difference. And that's what makes actually the whole difference. That if you think superior, this means that you have responsibility towards them. People who choose to use violence, this is the mentality of the 7th century and the 6th century, the dark ages of Arabia. And some people still living in it. They need to understand and see a very clear message from people who live in freedom. I'm assuming that we are the free world, right? So if we are the free world and we really understand what freedom means, then we have responsibility towards those people. We cannot encourage them by giving them money and by accepting the fact that they are victimizing themselves and they never take responsibility and they just blame the victim in the whole situation. By the name of justice. This way, we didn't do justice. Justice is not black and white. This doesn't mean that we persecute those people. This doesn't mean that we punish them. But at least we don't give them more money. They want to use violence for money. We don't give them money. We unify. They want a Palestinian state, but they don't know how to be independent. Well, what's the point? Well, first, show me an example. How can you be independent, democratic, instead of just playing the democratic game to convince the whole world that I am democratic, now give me lots of money? They do it for the outside world. They didn't do it for the welfare and the health of the society. They do it just to convince people that we are modern, that we are responsible, and now we can receive everything. No, they need to show a real example of responsibility, of accountability, not to the European Union, not only for the United States of America and the superpowers, but to existence itself, to life. This is not about hypocrisy. They have been hypocrites for a long time, and many people have been dying because of their hypocrisy. This hypocrisy has to come to an end. By the power of truth, Israel's existence is not accidental. Israel is where all the infinite forces of existence, of the cosmos, of life, play together to manifest this beautiful thing, the only light in a very dark region. It's not up. Let me please finish. It's not up to the superpowers, and it's not up to the Norwegian moralists. To those I say, wake up. Wake up before it's too late. Don't make a stupid judgment, because the consequences of this judgment and whatever money you're given towards that and support will just make things worse and worse every day. And more children will die. Those people need to ask themselves, have I contributed towards killing more children in Gaza while I'm thinking that I help those children? This is how a truthful person thinks. It's not a funny thing, truly. It's a very serious issue. And if I have not lived it, I wouldn't have actually the authority to stand here this afternoon and say those words. I know that some of them are harsh. And this is why I'm very controversial. And this is why many people label me as Islamophobic. But it's okay. It doesn't matter what the entire world think of us. What really matters, to know who we are.